So, okay, I'm gonna watch this video really quick too. I saw this video earlier. I saved it to my watch later and everything, but I just saw this. Anyways, the Forever Winter Early Access. What happened? So apparently this has not gone very well at all. People aren't liking it too much. So let's see why. It seemed like a really cool game.
Forever Winter is now in early access, with the game receiving a huge mix of reviews, particularly some relating to the game's controversial water mechanic, with comments ranging from this to this. So throughout this video, I'm going to break down these mechanics, my experience with around 20 hours in the game so far, and try to help figure out if jumping into Forever Winter's early access
you guys excited
right
for
now
this?
is for you.
It seemed cool, right?
Forever Winter is a grim, dark
it's pretty
PvE
cool.
third-person extraction shooter where you are not
Let's look at
the
that.
hero. The game is beautifully dark and designed to be difficult, brutal, and punishing, with a unique but controversial resource mechanic that currently sets it apart, for better or worse, from other extraction shooters, which is the elephant in the room that we'll cover now.
The
game's water mechanic currently requires you to collect water during raids or by completing quests in order to prevent loss of progress in the form of the infrastructure you've built up back at the innards, aka your home base, along with any weapons and equipment you've collected in your stash. The good news is, your character progress and experience remains untouched. Water is essentially what you use to...
He's probably gonna go into more detail, but like, if you don't get water, you lose your weapons? It just starts deteriorating and breaking.
Survive and tech up throughout your playthrough, unlocking different weapon vendors, upgrades for your base, and ultimately more time. The assets you unlock during your playtime, such as crafting terminals and item vendors, require a certain amount of water to unlock and keep, but if your water happens to reach 0, you lose access to those features for good until you can build your water supply back up again, either by collecting water in raids and or completing more quests. 1 barrel of water equals 24 hours, and its usage ticks down in real time, even if you're not playing. You can easily collect water in raids or by completing quests, but the feature has been described by some as an abuse of FOMO to keep people playing. The game's developers Fundog have stuck by it until now and have announced that they're listening to the feedback, and in my opinion, will likely change it throughout the course of early access. There are many ways
you can't see. There's only certain games that can do systems like this and have it that actually don't very severely hinder the gameplay and the fun of the game. So when you're forced to keep playing the game, and not only to keep playing, but to keep searching out a certain item over and over again, just so that you can continue to make progress and have fun in the game, that makes it very, very unfun, and it makes it more of a job and a grind in order to do. So you have to be very careful. Like Rust or DayZ or any of those games, it kind of has a similar mechanic where you have to keep coming back over it. Like, you can't just leave your game for 3 weeks and come back, because you will be dead and all your progress will be gone. So it kind of has the same thing where you need to keep coming back, you need to keep checking on things, all that stuff, but it's more integral to the game system, and it makes it more fun for some people. It makes it more challenging in general, but it makes the game more fun because it doesn't just hand you everything, I guess, for those certain people. And I guess it's different for every reason. Yeah, like everybody has different reasons for why it's fun, right? Sometimes you just like raiding people or playing it with buddies or whatever. You don't take it too seriously, but yeah, that's kind of the main gist of it.
Could make a better resource gathering system, which I may dedicate a whole other video to instead of covering those here, but the simplest solution for now would be to simply change the water so that it ticks down during actual playtime and not while you're offline. That being said, the water mechanic is perfectly manageable as it is, but the idea behind offline attrition seems to be rubbing people the wrong way, and I can see where they're coming from. If the devs are open to changing it, which it seems they are, it'll be difficult for them to find some sort of balance here without trivializing the whole thing entirely and making mechanic pointless.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to Forever Winter beyond its water mechanic though, so let's go deeper and discuss what I feel is the good and bad about the current
Like,
state
look
of
at
the
these
game.
landscapes,
One of Forever
dude.
Winter's strongest selling
These
points
look
is
good.
obviously the game's atmosphere, and while a unique art style, deliciously industrial music and grimdark feel is a great start, games, especially early access titles, don't survive on their vibe alone. So aside from the anxiety-inducing impending doom of water drought, which is likely to go away, what's there to keep you coming back to the game right now? The game's challenging nature is a good incentive alone when it comes to exploring its 5 current maps and 3 enemy AI factions, while you aim to complete a large variety of quests offered to you as you gain reputation and rewards for beating them. Scavengers are the standard neutral faction who you begin building rep for. The more missions you complete for them, the higher your standing, which means better deals with scav vendors and progressively better quests and quest
that's
rewards.
cool, yeah.
As you complete more quests, you'll be offered access to the military factions locked in eternal war above ground. Eruska, Eurasia, and Europa, all offering similar perks as well as opportunities to enter raids from new
That's super cool. There's a few games kind of with similar systems, like the name's escaping me right now. The Cycle Frontier. They did the same kind of system. I don't know if Tarkov or any of the other extraction shooters have similar systems, but I know that the Cycle had a similar system where you could take on missions with different factions and earn higher benefits with those certain factions, and they were different unique factions and stuff like that. Excuse me. Stuff like that's really cool.
faction-controlled locations. It's been noted that killing faction units in a raid will lower your rating with them, although it isn't made very clear how much this affects you inside or outside of a raid. If you know, let me
I wonder
know
if you're
in the
really
comments.
friendly. I wonder if you're really friendly with the faction. If they notice you out in the world, they'll like be less likely to shoot you or not shoot you at all, or you know, whatever. You can make a faction hate you, so you know, maybe there's like squads that hunt you occasionally. Like that stuff could be really cool.
It's below. Each weapon you use
Right?
and deal
Yeah.
damage with
Yeah, it could be
during a
pretty
raid earns you experience and levels with that weapon. The higher the weapon level becomes, the more parts for that weapon that become available to you across the different vendors. So you're kind of encouraged to specialize in certain weapon types, which can become particularly useful if you're playing in a team and need to fill a certain role. Your characters also gain experience points based on your actions throughout the raid. Completing quests, collecting loot, or accomplishing tasks like reviving your teammates generate experience points. But if you die during the raid or fail to extract, you'll lose everything you've accrued, including
like
experience
most
points
extraction
and all the
shooters.
items you picked up. With that being said, some of those items can be retrieved if you immediately revisit the raid and find
Yeah.
where you died, which for a
Oh.
game that calls itself brutal,
That's... I don't think a lot of extraction shooters do that. That's actually kind of good, though. It's a pretty cool mechanic.
is a pretty forgiving mechanic. As you gain experience points with a character, you'll quickly begin reaching your experience points cap for the first level. When you do, you can choose to spend those points by either increasing the stats on existing traits or learning new ones within your level.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can spend those experience points to unlock your next prestige rank, and with it, a higher experience points cap and access to the better abilities along the chain. Every time you level up your prestige rank, you'll also gain some extra hit points, but in turn, you'll lose any skills you learned during your previous rank, and these will need to be learned all over again. But is all this enough for players to look past the game's current faults? One thing that needs to be made clear is this game isn't trying to be Tarkov when it comes to the gunplay, but in its current
Okay.
state, the gunplay does feel pretty basic. The first-person ADSing and
It
muzzle
seemed
fire
like it was gonna be a little more in depth though, because those weapons, yeah, like the weapon customization was very in depth. So it seems weird that this is very surface level. That's interesting.
Flash, for example, almost looked placeholder, while weapon feedback and recoil could use some tweaking across the board for a more satisfying and immersive experience when shooting. That being said, Forever Winter is primarily a third-person game, so I can see how it might be difficult to flesh out both perspectives. In third person, currently pressing Alt will bring you in closer over the shoulder, and your ADS now becomes a slightly zoomed in third person crosshair.
Okay.
I'd personally like to see a completely separate keybind for over the shoulder switching and aiming, with a tighter crosshair relative to the accuracy stats, sway and recoil of your weapon and character.
Yeah, like maybe there could be some kind of system where you're running around and then you aim down sights and it defaults you to your crosshairs. However, if you like scroll wheel or whatever, then it'll switch you further into the full aim down sights, like GTA does it for their first person mode.
And less of the claustrophobic zoom. I'd also like to see the ability to use my head to free look, so I'm not forced to move my entire body whenever I want to assess my surroundings or when I'm sprinting across an open plane. There's also this odd feeling when aiming your weapon, which I can only describe as a sort of input lag, like you're moving your weapon through pockets of thick atmosphere. This is either a performance...
I noticed some games like that, and it's a very weird feeling to shake, and I do not like that feeling at all. Like, I remember I was always a COD kid, and COD's very, very... quick, it's very responsive, you know, you do something and it happens, it's snappy, right? And I started playing Battlefield for the first time, and it literally feels like I'm moving through molasses. And I remember I was talking with my buddy, the same one that I would play with PS3 with all the time when I was a kid, and I'm like, this is so much different than COD. Like, it feels like there's so much air around my weapons. Like, you know, it feels like I have to fully move the weapon. It's like moving it through water. I'm like, instead of just putting my gun over there, I'm like moving it through water or peanut butter or something. It just doesn't feel fun. Yeah, right. Battlefield's very sluggish, I guess, or floaty is a good way to describe it. Yeah, floaty. Yeah.
Related issue or some sort of intentional gunplay debuff, like sway in Tarkov, based on your character's stats or weapon mods that you may be able to improve with time and attachments.
Okay.
Overall, the gunplay gets the job done and generally sounds good, but it doesn't feel completely satisfying or immersive enough yet. In my opinion, it could be a lot better. I think this will have a long way to go throughout the game's early access period in order to flesh it out. My opinion may change when I get a chance to use a greater variety of weapons later in the game, but this is an early access review, and with around 15 to 20 hours in the game, these are the sort of things you can expect if you decide to pick it up right now. Weapon customization, however, looks pretty promising for its initial implementation. There's a lot of different ammo types and attachment options, and you'll come across a large variety of weapon components in every...
That's why I was confused when he said it seemed very, like, surface level, or, like, I mean, not fleshed out, or whatever his terminology was, basically saying the weapon customization and weapon play wasn't very deep, or maybe not customization, but the gunplay in general wasn't very deep. It was confusing because during their announcement trailers, they had this span of like all the guns, like almost like the COD vault weapon thing. It like spans through all the attachments on the same weapon over and over. You know what I'm talking about? That animation. So it's very weird. Very weird.
Attachments alter stats such as accuracy, damage, and recoil, with a variety of different weapon parts to choose from in order to tweak a weapon more to your liking. I can see this part of the game providing
you can even get a purple stock
replayability for players looking to min-max their gear in order to efficiently tackle raids and enemy AI, whether solo or as part of a team composition.
It's not super in-depth, but like
depending on your character, you'll also be able to customize your rig that you take with you into raids. This is the giant caged backpack you carry, which dictates how many special items, loot, and weapons you can carry in any given game, which is another unique feature to Forever Winter that I do like. GT,
that's cool.
They climbed up on... What the fuck, are they spawning in? Or did they climb up? Okay, that looks jank.
They won't automatically
though,
shoot
for a game that relies purely on its PvE, the game's AI is currently lacking. The AI will often screw itself over by getting stuck on terrain during cool and immersive moments, or suddenly make random movements with a lack of coherent direction or purpose. This can often be a little deflating when you're in an intense standoff or butt-clenching situation, only to realize this super scary machine of death is stuck on a rock or is running around the map like a headless chicken.
What are you doing?
There's also a complete lack of weight to
Even the scarabs from Halo 3 kind of move better than that. I don't remember them getting stuck on a whole lot of things. You know, playing Halo 3, I never remember getting or seeing a scarab getting stuck on the terrain like that. At least that
these giant
bad.
machines,
Yeah, I
which
don't remember
will
it.
sometimes instantly rise up and fall down small bits of
seen it?
terrain while traversing the game environments. Somehow they
Sure, it
seem
happens,
heavy,
but-
yet weightless at the same time. For an immersive game that really sucks you in with its atmosphere, these sort of things can really suck you right out again.
Like, that's crazy.
Across all the different types of AI you'll encounter, there's a real lack of weapon variety. Most AI threats will either melee you or fire the same ballistic autocannon with varying degrees of damage, range, and explosive radius, offering little in terms of interesting and challenging
That's
combat
crazy, though.
dynamics beyond their speed and hit points. In a game with no PvP, the AI needs to be able to use a variety of tactics, weapon types, and behaviors to provide interesting, long-term engaging combat and challenges, and I especially hope we'll start seeing boss-level encounters with special traits later on in the game. And while the game is challenging in its current state, most of that challenge comes from the sheer volume of enemy AI patrols and the lethality of their weapons when you do finally trigger their narrow but difficult to gauge detection range. In order to survive, you'll find yourself constantly moving through the environments using a combination of sneaking and butt-clenching sprints as you move from cover to cover. But due to the
Jesus
AI's
Christ.
inconsistent ability to detect you, these stealthy moments can sometimes be overcome with less effort than you'd expect, leading to an underwhelming sense of accomplishment when overcoming tricky situations.
Run away. They'll never know. Oh. They just forgot about it.
When it comes to being stealthy in Forever Winter, there doesn't
Nice.
seem to be any proactive options besides hiding behind things or using a suppressor. It's hard to tell if stealthiness has any relation to where you hide either, such as darkened corners or pieces of debris that leave your character poking over the top. There's also no ability to prone or make yourself less conspicuous at all, besides crouching and running around a corner or relocating entirely. Perhaps the intention here is just to fight your way out of those tricky moments, but some more options and clarity of stealth mechanics would go a long way into offering more variety in the way you approach the game.
Yeah,
AI
maybe they
spawns-
didn't really intend a stealth, like a full stealth kind of run. Like, maybe you could be quieter and less noticed, but I don't know if maybe they didn't intend for that to really be the case. But it seems weird because I don't know what they've really intended with this game other than just to be a unique, atmosphered, relatively standard extraction shooter.
Can also be frustrating, with
Yeah,
entire
I don't know.
patrols sometimes instantly
What's
spawning
super
on
unique
top
about
of
it?
you.
Besides
It
the
doesn't
water.
happen a lot, but when it does, it can destroy your entire raid and break immersion. I believe all AI should be reinforcing from an off-map entry point or via dropships and vehicles in a way that makes more sense to the game and world.
Yeah.
The game is also in need
Spawning
of
in like that is very
optimization
bad in
with
a
some
game like
hefty
this.
minimum requirements that have some people's low to mid-range rigs struggling. I found the performance has been good enough on my mid-range machine, but it could definitely run smoother and faster in some of the more demanding maps and situations. There have also been some
That's a pretty good rig. That's pretty good.
technical problems that have straight up prevented people from playing with each other since the early access release.
Don't die.
But Fundog has assured us they're working on a network fix as we speak that may already be deployed by the time this video goes out to get people back in
So what is
lobbies
there?
again.
There's servers?
So should you get into
servers?
Forever Winter's early access, hopefully by now you have a clearer idea of what to expect, i.e. a solid but far from complete game that needs your help to make it better. In the end, Forever Winter is a promising and
seems
original
good.
game with a small and passionate indie team behind it who seem determined to make it the best game it can be. There's a lot more I'd like to say in terms of a wish list of features, but I'll probably save that for another video. The devs are incredibly open to feedback and have already shown a great amount of honesty and candidness with their community, which has already brought them a lot of goodwill that will help throughout the game's early access period. I'd say Forever Winter could probably do with a good year and a half of early access before it reaches some sort of 1.0 state. And if
Okay.
Fundog Studios plays their cards right,
It's not
they'll be able to hold
terrible.
on to a loyal and engaged fan base throughout that time, and ultimately deliver a successful, well-rounded title when it's ready to fully release.
Yeah.
I'll continue to cover the game as it develops, so if you got something out of the video and you'd like to see more, please do like it and subscribe to the channel. I look forward to seeing what Fundog can
good
do
video, man.
with the game over the next year or so. As always, thanks for all the support, and thanks for watching, my fellow meatbags. Goodbye. What?
Let me
In third person.
put it right there. Yeah, this was a good video. I mean, check it out, give it a like, subscribe to him if you haven't. And yeah, I mean, I don't think this game is really bad, and I don't really see why the mixed reviews have come in. I can see some people are a little more upset about some things or another, but it's not, from what I can see, it's not terrible. If for some reason Fundog is watching this and is taking some feedback from this and is listening to any part of this video, this would be it. Your game is striving on its atmosphere and its world. Now, the extraction shooter and the gunplay, let's be real. Ultimately, the extraction shooter is the core, but it's your gameplay, or your world and your atmosphere is what drives your gameplay. It's what drives the want of people to come into this game. Because if they want to play an extraction shooter, they're going to play Tarkov, or they're going to play another one of the big ones. Your world needs to be so engaging that you don't want to leave it. You want to explore every nook and cranny. You want to try to find little secrets. So one way you could do that is by adding those secrets. Like adding just little tiny secrets, like, see, even in this area, like, you know, maybe add little secrets or like lore notes, whatever. You can add just little tiny things here or there. And another thing, the biggest thing, is you need to keep people interested in your game and in the atmosphere of your game. So you can't have these AI bugs where they're running into walls, teleporting and spawning in, or doing any of this kind of stuff, right? So we need to limit that as much as possible in order to keep people immersed into this world and the atmosphere that you're providing. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing is, I mean, the water, you need to fix, yeah, that, the water mechanic is pretty bad though. Yeah, I do agree. But that could be fixed pretty easily, that's fine. Yeah, you need to keep people in your game, and I know it's hard, especially when you're doing all the stuff that I saw that was going on there with all the fights, you know, multi-faction fights with the AI. I know that stuff is probably very, very, very hard to do. However, the biggest thing that needs to happen is keeping people engaged in this world, right? So those spawn-ins, they can't happen. Any kind of game-breaking immersion, it can't happen. We need to keep people in this world, and we need to keep people wanting to come back to this because of the unique enemies, the unique monsters, the unique vibe that the game gives off. It's really this game is one of the biggest vibe checks of all games. You know, it's one of those games where people just want to play it because the game is good and the world is cool. So yeah, you need to emphasize on that, and that's what is really gonna drive people to this. It's really gonna make people say, you know what, I don't really care that the gunplay is that bad. Whatever. This world is so cool, I want to keep playing. I can't get out of it. You know, I remember playing Dishonored. Dishonored 1 and 2 were both great games. However, they're not amazing. There's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of issues, there's some things that don't work. You know, there's some frustrations with the game. However, the idea, the story, the atmosphere of the game is so unique and it's so interesting, you never want to leave it. And that's the same kind of idea. You need to keep that going with this game, and that's how you just keep people over and over and over and over. You keep people coming back over and over and over. This is one of the best extraction shooters to come out, simply due to the atmosphere and the story and all of that stuff. It's really great. It's really amazing. But we need to keep people in the world. We need to keep people having fun and being interested in this world. And that's where you'll drive a lot of numbers up.